say the Pledge of Allegiance. Sherry, would you mind leading us in the pledge?
Sure.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Scott, would you mind saying our opening remarks?
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this opportunity to meet this evening as city staff, elected officials, and residents of Pleasant Grove City. We're grateful for this wonderful city we have to live in and for the great opportunities that are here. We ask that as we have our meeting this evening that Thy Spirit will be here with us as we move forward on our agenda and as we work towards making the city better. We are grateful for those that are out there in the military that are protecting our freedoms and the freedoms of others, and ask Thee to bless them, watch over them and their duties. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, we'll go ahead and look for approval of tonight's meeting agenda. Scott, are there any changes that need to be made?
We just need to have a brief executive session on a land issue.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, council, any?
No, do we know where Cindy and Eric are?
Eric's out of town, we do that. Cindy should be coming. Do you want to text her, Scott?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay.
Are we informed if she?
Yes, we just need three of you.
Well, not for the last part though, because I have to recuse myself for the canvassing, so as long as the mayor makes it, but otherwise we can't do the canvassing without him.
Okay.
But that's not the end, it's the
Yeah, let
end
me
anyway,
see.
so
Get
if we need to do a cupcake run in between, so we'll do that. Okay.
I'll move, Mayor Pro Tem, that we approve the agenda with the additional executive session for land use.
And I'll second it.
Motion by Ben, second by Diana, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
You're out,
this
you're
is,
a lot of motions tonight.
Yeah.
You can stop that.
Yeah,
thank
hopefully.
you. This is excellent service, excellent customer service. This is heavy cream Sprite and coconut for all who are interested, that kind of thing, so don't mind me. Thanks, Lisa. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to our open session. This is where members of the public can come up to the podium, state your name and address, and talk to us about any concerns, ideas, suggestions that you have for the city, and we're just here to listen. So go ahead and take a few minutes if anyone would like to come up and speak. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the open session. We'll move to our consent agenda items. These are items that have been discussed beforehand, are non-controversial, and do not require further discussion. We have our city council meeting minutes, and actually there's no minutes for approval at this time, and then our paid vouchers for August 21st. And are there any questions or concerns from the council on that?
What's our typical schedule for doing minute approval? Is there a time frame that we're supposed to have them in the system by, or?
Yes, the transcriber's supposed to have it back to me in 10 days, but then by the time I review them, and two reviews, they'll be about 4 or 5 minutes in the next week.
Cool. Oh, but the other town, that makes sense. Perfect. Thanks for the explanation.
Okay, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
I move that we approve the consent items.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Diana, second by Ben, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're moving along. We're now to 9A. This is a public hearing to adopt ordinance 2015-31, amending the Pleasant Grove City Code, sections 11E for the downtown village zone. And this will be presented by Ken.
Okay. Council, we did a brief review of this proposed ordinance
Ken, do
last.
you want to turn that microphone
Oh,
on?
yeah.
On the bottom.
The bottom there.
That little button. It was on
Wonder maybe we're low. There we go.
there.
Okay. So this proposal has been discussed for a little while. We had Eric Jensen, and I believe he was supposed to be here, so maybe he got stuck in traffic. So hopefully he'll show up. He's
Do
up.
you want to wait for him, Ken?
No,
Okay.
Eric with an A.
Different area.
Yeah. Should always say Eric with an A. Yeah, so this is his proposal, but that the city staff has joined in to add a few additional corrections that we felt were necessary for the downtown village zone. So I just wanted to show, even though this is not part of the proposal tonight, the reasoning for why this is coming forward. So it's showing the proposed on Main Street. The old City Hall building is just north of this, the Art Deco building, if you don't otherwise know that was the old City Hall. Then there's an antique shop right here. There's a vacant space in between these buildings. And so they would like to build a mixed-use structure there. So it would be commercial spaces on the bottom floor, 2 stories above with residential units. And then also a possible addition over the antique store that would be residential units as well. Parking to the rear. City recently approved a parking or actually development agreement that addressed parking and access for this property. So in order to make this property work as proposed, there are a few things that we needed to look at in the code. And so I'll review those briefly. Well, here's a conceptual drawing of the outside of the building that will be similar to this project that was constructed in Bountiful. So, and if you'd like, we can look at the specific language in the ordinance, but I'm going to explain what these items are that are in the ordinance. First off, we're just clarifying that the uses that are permitted in the downtown village can be further clarified or further availability for uses in an overlay zone. So there's verbiage that we just added in there. Main Street front yard setback. The verbiage says that it can be set back for different reasons, mostly for if we're going to do a plaza or some kind of commercial opportunity. But there was a concern that perhaps there would be a utility function that may cause a setback of a building as well. So we added that verbiage in there. Residential, not on Main Street. We haven't had, since we created the downtown village zone, a residential setback requirement for if a new home was to be built. We did a few years ago approve David Gibb on 100 West, and we just had him follow the setbacks of the R1 zone, even though we didn't have a requirement in the downtown village zone. We had intended to amend the code after that, but it fell to the wayside. So we felt when this came forward, oh yeah, there's something that we needed to amend in the code, so that should there be any future residential homes in the downtown village zone be built, that they would have these setback requirements. So 20 foot in the rear and the corner side yard and the front, and then on the interior side yard setback would be 8 feet. Now this is the same type of setbacks that we currently have in the R17 zone. So we've got similarity there. Also, no side yard required for a mixed use building if a few things are present. First of all, that it fronts on Main Street, that it's less than 40 feet high and is 3 stories or less in height. Also, accessory buildings for commercial or mixed uses may be on the side property line, which otherwise would require a bit of a setback, 3 feet minimum. But maybe on the property line, if there are no openings on the property line, they meet fire code readings, and that it could be also a carport that meets building code setbacks. So you find often in downtown commercial areas that there are no setbacks required. So this is something that falls in line with that. And also it removes the required access for development to be on an arterial or collector street. Formerly, Main Street all the way up to Center Street was considered a collector, but it has, or I think even in the past, it was considered an arterial. But it more recently, since our new transportation plan was adopted, is no longer in those categories. So we wanted to make it clear that, yes, we will allow these type of developments on Main Street as well, even though it's not in that classification of a street. So those are the proposed amendments in Chapter 11E, 1011E. which is the downtown village zone. We have another chapter, which is the next item, which is the downtown mixed use overlay. And so there's a few things that will be amended there as well to clean up the code and to allow for the proposed development. And this proposed development is an example of the things that we would like to see, but we finally had something come in to fill in a space and we realized, oh, we need to fix some things so that we can get what we want.
And when would they plan on starting construction?
My understanding is that they would like to start this fall. We have not yet received a site plan from them, so that would need to be reviewed and approved first. You would not see it. It would go to Planning Commission for approval. But of course, you're welcome to see as we send out the information to the Planning Commission. We've got you covered on that. So
I do have a question. So does this affect any other properties that are on Main Street right now? Like in the future, can you see this affecting anyone or the setbacks or the side?
potentially, yes. There's some other locations where either redevelopment, well, largely it would be redevelopment. If there's a home just on the other side of that antiques building that doesn't meet the commercial type building that we've been looking for, even though it's a historic structure, so it
That
may
is up for
stay.
sale, isn't it? Doesn't it have a for sale?
I understand that Eric Jensen's company was interested in acquiring it too, but they just had to pin that down. So I'm not sure that may become a part of this project as well.
So who owns that home right now, do you know? Oh, right.
I'd have to look
That's
it up.
okay, it's nice. Okay, we've talked about this a couple of times. Are there any more questions or concerns from the council about the ordinance change?
No, I'm comfortable with it.
Okay, we'll look for a motion.
It's a public hearing.
Oh, public hearing, I'm sorry. Anyone who'd like to ask questions or has concerns or ideas, suggestions, please come up regarding this item. And then it is to adopt ordinance 2015-31 for amending the downtown village zone, sections 11E. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back up here. And
Mayor Pro Tem and council, small council, I propose, I move that we consider for adopting ordinance 2015-31, amending Pleasant Grove City Code, sections 11E, downtown village zone, and 11E21, permitting conditional accessory uses in the Old Fort neighborhood, adopting the exhibits, findings, and conclusions of the staff report.
And I'll second it.
motion by Ben, second by Diana. By Diana, voice.
Yes.
Said yes. Ben.
Yes.
All right.
A very nice staff report.
Okay.
You like the new look?
Thank you.
Royce Davies, we let him redo it and that's his work.
Let him know that it's, I like that, especially that first paragraph.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item 9D. This is a public hearing to consider adoption for ordinance 2015-32, amending the Pleasant Grove City Code sections 10-11G, the downtown mixed-use overlay in the downtown village zone regarding historic buildings and single-family lots. And Ken will be presenting on this one as well.
Okay, within a certain area in the downtown village zone, there is an applied overlay, which allows for mixed use, or in other words, residential mixed with commercial. And the Main Street area has this overlay applied on top of it. So this project that we've been talking about would also fall within the mixed use overlay area. So that's why we have some proposed amendments to this chapter as well. So briefly, what they are is that the mixed use density, so we haven't had a density for these types of projects that aren't large projects, such as, shall we say, it's not large, but a little bit larger. The Allred's property on the block north had its parking and density and all that already established. But when we talk about a small piece of ground that really doesn't compare with larger pieces that might develop in this fashion, then we had to look at a different type of density requirement. So having 3 residential units per 1,000 square feet will allow this type of development to occur where you have 2 floors of residential units above the main floor of commercial. So this, instead of using a per acre, how many units of residential versus how much square feet of commercial. Okay. Then also the proposal is to remove the 80% ownership requirement for condominium ownership. with something that is proposed by the applicant based on HUD requirements for financing. Very difficult to do these type of projects with that requirement in place. I'm sorry.
So, but you can still, we're removing it, are we setting a percentage there?
No.
Okay.
No, so it will act just as any other type of project that could have ownership that is then rented out to other people.
So what was the policy that we had that in there in the first place for, just encourage them?
I think we had a desire to have owners in downtown instead of renters, but it's something that is very difficult to control.
And Councilmember Boyd has a right. I got you first.
Yeah, they were low on numbers.
Yeah, glad you're here.
We were just snapping stuff up there.
I was gonna
We'll go ahead
say,
and
oh
open
my
up for
goodness.
public hearing and go ahead and come up to the podium if you have any questions.
Oh, I'm not
Oh,
done.
You're not done, okay.
If you want to cut me off, I'm all right with
No,
that.
go ahead. I'm trying to get done by 7.
I'm
Go
done.
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, residential access can be permitted via a pedestrian walkway, not just on the street or plaza, which currently the code requires. Frontage on Main Street, again, bringing the verbiage together is permitted. Recreational amenities are required for those types of projects that are at least 1 acre or larger. So this type of project would not require recreational amenities. Garage parking is not required for mixed use. Similar materials for carports is required only if there's end walls on the carport. And traffic study is only required for projects that are at least 1 acre in size or 20,000 square feet of building space.
So on the residential access, so they'll have access at the front of the building. on
You know, we
the-
haven't seen a detailed site plan on that yet, so if you were, I can go back up to the concept there. So there will actually be a planned mini plaza or walkthrough that will allow from Main Street to go back into the parking and then onto the city property where the library and such is. So there'll be a walkthrough there. The applicant requested that we be able to have that as an opportunity, so he may be planning a residential access onto that plaza. Okay, so those are the all the requirements that are, all the proposed text amendments for Chapter 11G. Any questions?
You know, let's go ahead and open up for public hearing and we'll bring it back up here if there's any concerns from the public. Go ahead and come up to the podium if you would have any questions or concerns.
Carl Cooney, 2115 North Crestwood Boulevard. So on the plaza walkthrough, will the developer be responsible for installing that?
Yes, it'll be part of their site plan. All right. The property line actually doesn't go all the way to the old City Hall building, so there'll be a little space there in between what they will develop and the other building. We will work with the owner of this building to try and blend that in and clean up that area that's adjacent to the old City Hall.
Okay, and that's kind of my question is, as I see lots being approved and subdivisions and that, I see loose ends, like park strips on landscape, certain things. So as you're, approving projects, if we'll just make sure they button up loose ends, that way it's not a financial burden on the city.
Anyone else? And can it sound like that's gonna be taken care of, like you said, working with the current property owner as well as get that cleaned up and then kind of fleshing those together?
Just as a comment, I think the ultimate is then working with us and getting all that area. As they move in, start cleaning up, moving and creating that plaza, we need to also kind of look at our own properties and see if we can't bring them up a little notch.
Because you mentioned not just the walkthrough, but
Right.
behind that area.
Right.
Right, so the area behind we've already discussed, and Dion is not here tonight, but we did talk about having those old trees and stuff cleaned up. So that will be a nice blended thing as they create their parking lot in through here that will have required trees. They'll be taking out the old stuff, and so it'll be a new
I know
clean.
Dion has mentioned there's some kind of not by quality trees back there that we can replace or trim up or work with them on making that work.
All along that border.
Right.
That boundary line.
Right.
It's not pretty. Will there still be a pass through from the city parking lot to the other parking lot?
So yeah, this will remain open in through here.
As a driveway or as a walkway?
There will be a driveway. We'll have well, I don't know if we'll actually have a sidewalk because there's not, we could probably do a crosswalk indicated, painted on the pavement there, but there won't be an actual sidewalk through there because it's just a small parking area.
So that plaza is just a walkthrough. It is not,
Right, it's not a drive-through.
How wide is the plaza?
Well, I haven't seen the site plan yet, but just to eyeball it, I'm going to guess about 10 feet, maybe 12 at the max.
so the boundary line is that yellow line?
Right up and through here.
We'll close the public hearing and we've already done this further discussion. Any other discussion regarding this item? Yes.
Sid, can I ask one more quick
Go ahead,
question?
yeah, come back up.
So, traffic flow. Is there a designated way in and out back there? I'm sure, like I see cars cutting through the city property to get out to First East. Possibly.
Cutting through the,
I mean, how, you don't want them cutting necessarily through City Hall and police station and that.
So the residents, is that who you're talking
Yeah.
about? Okay.
Just because like where it says city property,
Mhm.
like, people are like sheep and they'll take the easiest course, which I see the nice, parking lot to the police station and that.
Right, so our development agreement that was recently approved did permit access for this residential and commercial development to come through the city property at this point. There will not be any kind of vehicular access going through here. It'll be, we'll make sure there's some bollard or something so that no vehicles can come through that way. But this is intended to be an access for this development here.
So that
across the city property
is intended.
Yes.
Okay.
But isn't that an alleyway there? Just north?
There's an alley back in through here that accesses the back of these buildings here. But the city did approve a development agreement specifically for some shared parking back here for the development as well as access into the development through the city property.
The traffic flow is either to Center Street or First South, or correct? From, if you go through the city property.
Well, you're going either to First South or to Center Street.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to go to First East.
First East?
Can.
Yeah.
Well, you could go through the
You can, but
city
it's-
parking lot.
It's basically one way, coming in that way.
Right, you're not supposed to, you're right.
And I think there's some future looking at things there too, because that, down here, I know this isn't our property or other properties, but we can look at, there's access this way too. That we can probably tie in
Yeah,
this development.
There's one
continues.
down and through there.
Right, this development continues.
And access through these areas is actually a good thing.
Right.
Have cross access instead of
Right.
having enclaves where you can only go in and out
This is
one
it,
way.
to kind of straighten around and stuff. It could also be an access here and here.
There will be further redevelopment, I'm sure, that will
Once
clean
this
these things
gets
up.
solved.
Are we still taking public comments or?
I just don't-
Public session, but we could reopen.
I just have a question. What are the, how many units?
Oh, okay. Right now, there's 6 planned.
Okay,
So there'd be 2 new bottom floor commercial spaces adjacent to the antique store. So then there would be 2 above that on the second floor and then 2 above that on the third floor. And then a proposed 2 above the antique shop.
so the living area is 6.
6 total,
So that's 6 cars we're looking at, basically.
well, or 12.
12.
So is
Or-
the,
20.
is the antique shop strong enough to have a?
It would not be necessarily attached to the building. It would be something that would be attached to the existing, and have other structure that would allow it to have building above.
So for my benefit, Ken, and maybe for the public too, could you walk us through the other steps that we'll see over the next few months? I mean, this is the approval of the overlay that we're discussing. This will come back to us with a site plan. I'll give
Right.
what opportunities will we have to address issues like the plaza walk.
Well, the planning commission, you will not see it. The planning commission is designated as the approval body for all site plans in all zones except for the Grove Zone. So when you see development in the Grove Zone, then it does come to the city council. So we'll make you privy to it through our information and staff report sent to the planning commission. But as far as approval or review of all of these issues, it will be at the planning commission.
Thanks.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion on 2015-32.
Mayor and council, I'll make the motion that we adopt ordinance 2015-32, amending Pleasant Grove City Zone, City Code, sections 10-11G, downtown mixed-use overlay in the downtown village zone regarding buildings and single-family lots in the old Fort neighborhood. Adopting the exhibits, findings, and conditions of the staff report.
I'll second
Okay, we have a motion by Ben and a second by Diana. By voice, Cindy,
Yes.
Diana,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 9C, it's a public hearing to consider for adoption an ordinance 2015-33, amending Pleasant Grove City Code section 10-9B-2E accessory uses, 10-9B-7F accessory buildings, and 10-9B-11 permissible lot coverage in all single-family residential zones regarding accessory building standards.
Okay, recently, or just last week, actually, the city council passed a similar text amendment for the rural residential zones, looking at accessory structures in that zone. So what we're doing now is looking at all the remaining residential zones or single-family residential zones and looking at the requirements for accessory structures. There's been several issues that have come up over the years, and one more particularly fairly recent that is still not resolved, actually. I'll give you a quick update. Board of Adjustment did hear that item on Thursday, but it has been continued. There's been some issues or some questions in regards to the application filing date, which may make the whole thing invalid, the whole appeal invalid. So that's something that the attorney needs to review and may be addressed at the next Board of Adjustment meeting. Anyway, this particular amendment is kind of in response to some of the issues that we've had. So I'll review with you briefly what the text amendment proposals are. If you'd like to look at them in more detail as per verbiage, you do have that in your staff report, but we can review that here as well. An overview of the proposal is that we will add reference for the requirements. There's two in the R1 chapter. There are two places that accessory structures are talked about. The first one is in the permitted uses area, but it does not get into the detailed requirements. We wanted to tie that with the other section that does have the detailed requirements by reference. So that's a simple change there. The next one is to have increased minimum setbacks. We've talked about this before, where the minimum required setback currently in the code is 3 feet for an accessory structure in the R1 zones. And then when you get to a 15-foot height, for every additional foot above 15 in height, you have to have an additional 1 foot setback away from the property line. We determined that perhaps that needs to be improved or increased a bit, so we dropped the minimum height where we start increasing from 15 to 12, so that at 13 feet, you would be required to be set back 4 feet, and then so on up to 25 feet maximum. When it reaches 18 feet, that's where staff does not approve it, but it requires a conditional use permit approval by the planning commission. So the next item talks about that. Currently in our code, we have a requirement that if a proposed accessory structure exceeds 18 feet, then staff or city needs to notify the property owners within 100 feet and let them know that this is being proposed. And we give them 10 days to protest. And if we receive a protest, then we go out and renotice to have a conditional use permit hearing. We felt like this was an unnecessary step, that has been in the past shown sufficient concern that if it's over 18 feet, we ought to just have it as a conditional use permit. So we're going to eliminate that protest period and just go immediately to a conditional use permit when it exceeds 18 feet. Maximum size limit, changing that a bit. Structures covering over 10% of the property or the minimum lot size. So in the R18 zone, it's 8,000 square feet minimum lot size. 10% of that is 800 square feet. So 800 square feet is the threshold then for maximum size of a structure, an accessory structure. Although we have the ability between 10 and 15% to be approved by conditional use permit. So that's, we haven't had a maximum of 15%. We've just said anything above 10% can be approved by conditional use permit. We feel like we're getting maybe sometimes a little bit too large of structures in what is a residential area. So that's why the proposed 15%. So in the R18 zone then, a 1,200 square foot accessory structure could be approved by conditional use permit. And then depending on what zone you're in, what the minimum lot size, it's based on that. So if we went to a R115 zone, 1,500 square feet would be 10%, and then what would be 2,250 would be a 15%. So if you have a larger lot size, minimum lot size zone, then you get to have a little bit larger structure. Okay, then further defining the design requirements. We do have design requirements currently in place, but we don't talk about them necessarily in the type of materials that need to be used on certain structures. So if they are built of metal, vinyl, or other similar materials, they shall include a wainscot, siding, or similar architectural features covering a minimum of 30% of all building sides, except the door areas, made of similar materials or masonry used on the main dwelling. It hasn't been specific enough in that requirement in the current code. Okay, and we also have an ability for the Planning Commission to waive any of the design requirements, or actually any of the requirements that are placed upon an accessory structure, which in my mind and in others, I think, kind of renders the ordinance fairly useless, that anybody can go in and request any waiver and get it if it seems okay. So we felt like these requirements are important enough to protect the neighborhood, the look, feel, and spirit of the neighborhood. So rather than allowing for any of these to be waived, they're just simply required. And then limiting the area of the lot to be covered. So if you have your home and you have 5 structures, 5 sheds or whatever, you can do that as long as you're meeting setbacks and as long as you're not exceeding the total area that can be covered by structures on your property. So currently the code allows for 40% of your lot to be covered by structures. We felt with the current setback requirements and such, if you have a fairly large lot, you can get a lot of structures on there and kind of take away from the whole feel of the neighborhood. So we're proposing to lower that to 30%, which when you're meeting your setbacks, you still have more than 30%. If you're filling up your whole buildable area with the setbacks, you still have more than 30% available on the property. So it does allow for accessory structures, just not a multitude, a village, in other words.
Is this retroactive?
Unfortunately, no, or fortunately, depending on your perspective. So those are the requirements that we're proposing to have amended for this chapter.
Step back one slide. Okay, on this one here, further define design requirements. On the
Wainscot, you said, is that what it's called?
It's either pronounced wainscot or wainscot.
I've always heard wainscot. Okay. So you'll have a metal building. I'm aware though that we have some companies even in our city that manufacture a type of a material that is metal. And it's actually really pretty. Are we gonna require those that use that type of material to also have some other kind of covering?
Well, I guess what we're looking for, and I think the verbiage allows for there, or similar architectural feature. So what we're looking for is something that doesn't look, act, and feel like an industrial warehouse. So that we have something that ties it in residentially to the design of the neighborhood.
Because there's one in our neighborhood that's just absolutely stunning. It has, a copper roof and the siding on it is the way it's done. It's gorgeous. It's actually an upgrade compared to our home. So I was just wondering if we needed to cover that up. So this is intended then to be applicable depending on where it's going in? Is that what we're looking at?
No, this would be applicable to any accessory structure that's going on a residential property. So it needs to have similar architectural features to the main home.
Any questions, council?
Discuss it last
right?
weekend.
Okay. Let's go ahead and open it up to the public. If you'd like to comment on this item, we'd like to hear from you. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and come back up here. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I make the motion that we approve ordinance 2015-33, amending the Pleasant Grove City Code sections 10-9B-2E, accessory uses, and 10-9B-7F, accessory buildings, and 10-9B-11, municipal lot coverage in all single-family residential zones regarding accessory building standards citywide.
Motion by Sid,
Second.
second by Diana, by voice. Ben,
Yes.
Sid,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Diana,
Yes.
motion carries. Okay. Let's move on to item 10A. This is to consider a resolution 2015-31, authorizing the mayor and municipal council sitting as the board of canvassers to accept the election returns and declaring and certifying the results of the primary election held on August 11th. Kathy, you're presenting. I have a question. We have this sheet in front of us. What's the date and time on this one?
This is what Scott Colvinson from the county sent me today.
Was that today?
So this is the.
25, 13.
Okay, so does this include any of the provisional and other things that were counted?
This includes all ballot absentees and provisionals.
Okay.
So should I go ahead and accuse myself?
I have a question.
Yeah.
When it's not a county one, we have it all broken down by precinct.
That's coming at the end of the week.
Okay. It's always informative, so.
Yes, as soon as I get that information.
I don't think you have to be,
Can I just sit here?
yeah, because you're not. I mean, there's no-
Technically, they don't even need to recuse.
I don't.
Yeah, you don't really have
I
to.
can sit there.
Well,
We're just accepting the results.
Just wanna be
You're not
official.
influencing the results.
Yeah, I don't think you have to.
Alright.
say it,
And
three
she's not
running
gonna make
council
any
members,
money.
and they all recuse, we wouldn't be able to.
Okay.
Okay,
So I'll just explain this really quick if that's okay.
yes, please.
We have 15,596 voters registered in Pleasant Grove. 3,357 cast votes, which is 21.5%, which is the highest since 2005 that I have record of in primary. So that's pretty good. There were
9,851 total votes cast. Lynn Walker received 1,478. Eric Gibson, 1,669. Don Paz, 1,453. Sid Lamone, 1,622. Blaine Thatcher, 1,481. Matt Godsey, 1,290. Jennifer Baptista, 564, and Joe Butt, 294.
And the order here is the same as what was on the ballot?
Yes.
And it seems like there's been some slight changes as to,
Yeah. Between Lynn and Blaine.
okay,
Very close.
okay.
This- And
Every
then,
vote counts.
and, Scott also sent me this information, so I thought I'd read it if that's okay.
Sure.
846 absentee ballots were sent out, 279 were returned. That's a 33% return rate. 50 provisional ballots were processed, which 47 were valid. So all of the ones that, the provisional, the county made sure that they're all registered. So that was an 88.7% acceptance rate. And at the end of the week, actually before the end of the week, he will get me the information per precinct.
We publish it on the website.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds great.
Can you email it to us too?
Yeah, as soon as I get it, I'll email it.
So Kathy, will the same order be for the November ballot as well, the names?
The state determines the order that it goes in. So every 2 years, they do a random draw who goes first.
And do you have, is this one of the highest primary turnouts you've had?
In 2005, it was, I think, 16.9% or something like that for primary.
This is a big turnout.
This
Yeah,
was a
22%.
big turnout.
It's huge. It's impressive. Thanks for being involved.
I know that with the county involved, I know some cities did a mail-in.
Yes.
Or is that something that we considered, or is that something we can't consider at this point? Or I know I was listening to news today, and cities were reporting, the state was reporting on the turnout of mail-in votes. And what the percentage is way high if we allow mail-in votes. So is it too late to do that
I think for the general, it
for
would
this
be
year?
for this year, and besides the county is going to put the gas tax on the ballot.
Yes,
So
I did
they
hear
want-
that discussion too, about
Yeah.
whether the mail-ins will work.
Yeah, so if the cities can decide if they want to continue with a vote by mail, and if they do, then their citizens will have to do a vote by mail and then go to their places and
Vote on
vote
the
for the
tax.
county.
Oh, okay. So it's-
So did that meeting already take place?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, any further discussion?
Questions?
Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we adopt resolution 2015-031, sitting as Board of Canvassers to accept the election returns, declaring the winners to be Eric Jensen, Sid Lamone, Blaine Thatcher, Lynn Walker, Don Paz, and Matt Godsey. And certifying those results of the election primary held on August 11, 2015, and thanking the two candidates that didn't get through, but did a great service for our community.
Motion by Ben,
Second.
second by Diana. We have a pattern going here tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, by voice. Cindy,
Yes?
Sid,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Diana,
Yes.
motion carries. All right, now I need everybody to sign this one document here. We'll circulate it. All right. We're gonna move on to item 11, which is a discussion of the items for the September 1st city council meeting. So we're skipping, are we skipping one?
No.
No, we're skipping the one after that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we'll go over that.
Okay.
We'll go over the rest of the years.
Okay, September 1st. We'll have some new employees to
Yeah.
present.
Yeah, have some new employees to introduce.
I guess we won't hold a surprise by doing that tonight.
No, we're not gonna do that.
9A would be a public hearing, a continued public hearing to consider for adoption a resolution 2015-029, authorizing the mayor to sign boundary line agreements with W. Brent and Connie Bullock, Craig H. and Cynthia Wellesley, and Joseph Milton and Joan V. Fugel to clarify or correct minor differences in their legal descriptions relative to the boundaries of the Manila Park, approximately 1400 north and 50 west, and providing for an effective date. Is this the one we noticed?
Yeah, this is what we
incorrectly?
noticed and needed to re-notice.
Okay, so there's really no other questions
It's
on
the
that?
same item again, if there's any questions on that, to answer.
Does it impact any city properties with Manila Park, or is it just their own?
Does, there's some discrepancies in the legal descriptions, so there are apparent gaps on the north end, and I believe a slight overlap on the east side. So this just simply says that the fences that are there, in fact, on the north side, the surveyor surveyed the fence, and then the proposed boundary with the Bullocks is 6 inches off the face of that fence. So we're just agreeing essentially to the boundaries that everyone has thought have been the boundaries. So along Manila Park and then down 50 west along the east side of the street.
And how did this all come about? Was it, are we surveying for a reason, or they have always known that this was a discrepancy?
They've known this is a discrepancy, and the Bullocks are actually working to move forward with a subdivision proposal, and so they've known they needed to get this cleaned up, and so this actually the judge who's had it surveyed and has the background work done.
So it's kind of clean up.
Clean, yeah.
Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to item 10A, which is no action. It's to consider for adoption a resolution. Is that right?
Well, so all these items do have action, so we'll need to reclassify them on the agenda. Item 10A, B, and C would all require action, so.
So they move to 9.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that's
Okay.
correct on the agenda.
They'll probably be with action, but not for a public hearing.
They're not public hearing, but yes, we'll need to take action.
So to consider for adoption a resolution 2015-032, indicating the city council's intent to adjust the common boundary between Pleasant Grove City and the city of Cedar Hills, and setting the public hearing date for the boundary line adjustment. The proposed area to be adjusted is owned by Scott and Gina Day, 4495 North, 900 West, Pleasant Grove, Utah, 1.33 acres, and Brent and Neva Wilson, 4537 North, 900 West, Pleasant Grove, 0.39 acres, and provided for an effective date.
I'll play city attorney here for a minute.
Okay.
We'll see how well I do. My understanding, what's happened is Gina, well, the Days and the Wilsons filed for a boundary adjustment, and they're currently in Pleasant Grove. They would like the boundary adjusted to Cedar Hills City. This is something we received, I don't know, probably almost 2 months ago, and we've been just kind of hanging on to it to decide what we were going to do with 4,000 North Seward and possibly 900 West before we address this. So we're partway down the road on those items, and so we need to get this in front of the city council. What you're considering is whether to consider having a public hearing on this issue. So the city council can say, we don't even want to entertain it and vote, and at that time, just shut it down right there. Or we would like to entertain it and have a public hearing on the issue, and then we would set the public hearing date. And then the council would, after the public hearing, then the council would need to take official action to adopt the boundary line agreement. So there's kind of 2 phases. One is just deciding yes or no on whether we want to entertain it or not, and then the public hearing would occur, and then there would be the actual decision.
So we'll get to see a little map that shows us
Yep.
how this is.
So we'll have all that next week, and Tina can, if you have questions, Tina's, I can't remember if she's coming back tomorrow or Thursday, but she'll, so if you have questions specific to this, you can call her and she can walk through that. But on Tuesday, when we talk about this, we'll have all the legal stuff in front of you. We'll also have the maps and things for the council to look at and to consider on how we want to proceed on this.
Do we have any idea what the noticing timeline is between the public hearing? I mean, suppose next week we decide to have a public hearing, how soon does that happen?
Yeah, I don't, Tina could tell you that. There is a time.
It's 30 days.
Is it 30 days? That's right. It's, well, yeah, I know you and Tina have talked about it more than I have, but, so, 30 days.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to 10B, to consider for adoption an ordinance 2015-34, amending the 2015 City Council yearly schedule by canceling the frequency of the scheduled meeting dates for the remainder of the year and providing for an effective date.
Okay, so in the Dropbox, did you do a hard copy or just in the Dropbox?
No, I did in the Dropbox.
So in the Dropbox, there's a document in here that essentially says, here's kind of our schedule for the rest of the year. The meetings that have originally been scheduled that we're proposing to be canceled would be September 8th, October 13th, and November 4th. Did we have meetings scheduled for the 15th and 29th of December originally? Okay, so the 15th and 29th of December as well. So there's 5 meetings there that we'll otherwise cancel. If we need to go back and have meetings at those times, we always have that option. But this is what we're proposing to the city council to kind of finish out the year. So this was in response, we talked a little bit about, I mean, we go every week and maybe try having 3 meetings a month instead of 4. This is the result of that.
Okay.
So if there's any questions, this is what we'll be considering.
Any questions?
Do we have to do that by ordinance?
Yes.
We set the meetings at the beginning of the year by ordinance, and so we could cancel each one individually. This is just kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we can advertise and let people know, here's the meetings that we're shooting.
Got it.
And when we do it next year, we usually cancel, I mean, we don't hold a meeting between Christmas and New Year's. And so when we put our schedule on next year, we'll just leave that one off and a couple of the other these as well. So so we won't have to worry about officially canceling those. We'll just set that up as our yearly when we do it in January.
Any other? All right, item 10C, to consider for adoption of resolution 2015-033, adopting the watershed protection plan and providing for an effective date.
So part of what we have worked out with Metro Water of Salt Lake and Sandy and also Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District, back when we made the decision that we needed to pipe the water coming out of Battle Creek and Grove Creek and put it into the canal, any excess water that we have. They required us to develop a watershed protection plan, which means, you know, where the water source is, we need to make sure that that area stays free of somebody going up and potentially contaminating water. I don't know if it's state law or if this is just part of our agreement with.
Well, it is something that Metro is required.
Metro is
because
required.
of the class of city that they support.
That's right. So John Cheese is going to be the one, he'll come and present the plan and explain what all this means. But in essence, it's a city adopting a plan to say we want to protect water source. So watershed protection.
Any questions? All right, and then item D, 10D would be a discussion on drones. And I'm kind of partly
I
responsible
think you're
for this.
driving this.
Yeah, this one came about because of a couple of incidents. The most recent one, I think I circulated to the council and to the staff in the form of an email, and it was a parent that was upset because the drone was actually at window height in the person's yard, taking pictures of the child that was inside the home. And even though we're in a situation where, you know, federal regulation doesn't allow regulation of the drones themselves, we probably need to discuss safety, privacy, some other kind of a concern. Now, I got an email from Chief Smith that said one city had adopted an ordinance allowing drones to be removed from the sky. Was that tongue in cheek or?
With the shot.
I think they did it.
Actually,
It's pretty backwards community issues on permits.
we probably won't go to that extreme, but I'm feeling like we need to get on top of it before it becomes a problem.
So Tina's already looked a little bit into this. She'll review kind of what the federal law is and then be able to tell us what leeway we have in whatever manner.
Okay,
And so that we can discuss that and see what our options are.
all right, sounds good. Anybody want to chime in on this?
No, I agree. But
Next week for sure.
I think this is gonna be more and more often with new technology as things come out, where, you know, you just gotta.
My guess is there'll be state law on this fairly soon.
Hope so, yeah.
Well, one question of curiosity, I have Chief may be able to speak to this, but do our current laws cover, you know, a handheld camera at somebody's window? Do we have ordinances that could be by analogy applied to drones too?
A selfie stick.
Typically, no, not if you're in a public place. Viewing from a public place, you view private property.
Yeah, so we have to kind of figure that out, because that was the question we were talking about in our staff meeting today is, you know, if you're on a public street and you have a telephoto lens and you're pointing it in somebody's window, is that illegal? Well, at least according to our chief, no. I don't know how our city attorney would feel about that, but you know we have to do a little bit of research as staff to see what we can or can't do.
Okay.
Drones, and this isn't, we're not, I mean, I think a lot of cities are taking a look at this very issue and trying to figure out how to handle it. 'Cause, you know, to have one right at your window, I think would be disconcerting to anybody.
And just for the record, that case the mayor pointed out wasn't from Pleasant Grove, right? It was from the incident that you emailed about. That wasn't.
Are you asking a question?
I'm asking a question,
It
yeah.
was from Pleasant Grove.
Was it in Pleasant Grove?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, no,
I-
you mean where it got shot down or it was in the kid's bedroom?
One that was shot down was in a different city, but that one was in Pleasant Grove.
I prefer not to say.
Okay, so I missed that detail.
All right, we're gonna cancel the September 8th meeting and the rest follows as usual. Okay, coming back to tonight. Libby? Nothing? Ed? Nothing? David?
Just thanks to everybody who participated in getting the photo directory out. It was a team effort in a lot of ways.
Wonderful. That's what this is here. Great, thank you. Okay,
And 2 more weeks of the promenade. So make sure you get out if you haven't already been out.
thanks. Marty?
A couple of weeks ago, we had a discussion with Mr. Bruce Goodwin about the storm drain pipe on Third West. We did meet with the developer and his contractor. We met on site last week, and Bruce did attend that, talk with us a little bit. We do have an agreement that the developer will go ahead and get that installed with us participating in the cost sharing that we're working out. They'll provide us an invoice so we can kind of see what our proportionate share of that cost would be. The contractor would be able to start, he's going to be ordering the boxes very shortly. It'll take him about 2 weeks to get those boxes, at which time he's planning to move forward with construction. So probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we should start seeing some construction movement on the pipeline. Assuming we can get the deal worked out.
And how are they, how are the residents there? Are they okay?
Yeah, they were happy to see things going forward. I've talked with Bruce a couple of times since our meeting, and I think I'll talk with him again and give him this information. I just kind of found that out today, so. But they should be happy. It's moving forward as fast as I can, so.
Thank you, Marty. Anything else? Mike? Nothing. Share it.
I have a letter.
Okay.
And it was anonymous. This person just left it and a stuffed animal on the desk. So it's kind of long, but it's early, right?
We have till 11 o'clock.
We want to hear it.
So it's addressed, thank you librarians. You run things so smoothly. Oh, I'll turn it. You run things so smoothly and keep things so organized so that when we come in, we can have calmness around us and simply feel the magic of being there and the thrill at the prospect of finding something new and spectacular to read. You have more patience than most of us could muster collected throughout our whole lifetimes. When you help people with the technology, when you help a child understand how things are set up, or when you answer question after endless question that makes a difference. You are always there to talk about a different book with anyone. You seem to have a built-in knowledge of them all. I have never had a question that has had to go unanswered in the library, nor it seems would I ever have to. You embrace and excite easily at the idea of anyone reading anything. When a child proclaims that they love a certain book, when a teenager makes a goal to read a certain number of books in the summer, when an adult has set their mind upon trying something new. In this very library is where I learned the stories of Shakespeare, the adventures of Edward Bear, or as we better know him, Winnie the Pooh, the magic of reading a Toni Morrison novel, and my first time reading Stephen King. I have read books in a group of friends and read books that went unknown on the shelves by many. The fulfillment of a story well told has seeped through the books and into this place and into yourselves. It's something that you can feel when you come into the library. There's always this extravagant feeling of knowing that however fast a reader you are, you won't be able to finish all the books in the library, but you're going to try anyway. Any book, whether new or a reread, gives you hope and excitement. The little things you have that gets you through the day and you look forward to enjoying. Librarians are needed and should be respected in the greatest light. You haven't gotten nearly as much as you deserve, and I may not be able to give you that, but I'd like to try. I'll try through words of my own and by reading the words of others that you keep so well stocked and taken care of every day. I'll ask you to please forgive us for the troublesome bunch we are in the hopes that we can become better through every day that we read. Thank you forever.
That's very touching.
That's like one you can't find.
Yeah.
Thanks for trying.
That's awesome.
Readers write better.
I forgot to sign, by the way. I agree with everything.
What color was the bear?
I think you got it.
Scott?
No, we need a brief executive session. We talked about the beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
About land issue.
Okay. Megan? Nothing? Kathy?
Yes. 28th is the last day to sign up for the league conference in September, so if you haven't done it already, if you want me to do it, I can do it for you. If you don't have to do it, just go ahead.
Is that one in Salt Lake?
Thank you. Brianna?
And I'm looking that out with my schedule right now, so.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Beth?
I just wanted to say thanks. We had, I mentioned last week about the Pleasant Grove Ambassadors to Business. We had a handful of great new ambassadors to business show up to ribbon cutting at doTERRA. Thanks for everybody who made that possible. It was a great event, great speech by the mayor, great speech by Jason Chaffetz and Val Kale and David Sterling. And it was a great event, but it was a fun way to kick off the program that got to show some people what, the end results of economic development are all about. So it was a neat opportunity. It was a celebration of the second phase of doTERRA's campus, and it was kind of a neat event. Thanks.
That's it? No? Figure out that popcorn yet?
I'm working on it.
Okay. Cindy?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Calendaring wise, I'm gonna be out next week, Tuesday, until Friday, so. You're
I got it.
So Mayor, you want us to switch that drone discussion then?
Sure, yeah. Move it to the next agenda.
So probably to the 15th of
That'd be
September.
fine,
Okay,
yeah.
let's do that.
I don't think the drones are going anywhere.
No, they'll probably not.
All right, we've signed our plats. We're reviewing the calendar. And then we need a motion to go into executive session to discuss real estate.
Yes.
I made a motion to go into executive session to discuss real estate issues.
Okay, motion by Sid, second by Diana, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And then we'll come out of executive session as soon as we're back. Shouldn't be too long.
So.